telling you, we don't want your stupid pandas. You can keep the pandas. Why do we have to take pandas? You know what we pay for pandas? We pay $10 million. That's the lease. That's what we pay to China for the privilege of keeping the pandas. That's not even the food, the containment system, the life support to keep these animals alive. They're like dedicated for extinction. We're keeping them alive artificially. We don't want your stupid pandas. If America falls for the PANDA-ring here, we deserve to collapse as a country. If we fall for that, I'm sorry. It's too crazy. Steve Milloy is going to join us today at 3:30. We'll talk to him about the environment. The left says things are getting too hot. People are dying. Of course, they're lying about everything. Ben Klein, the congressman, will be with us at 4 o'clock. We'll talk to him about protecting America from spies, and including in our own country. And Philip Lendzicki joins us today at 5 o'clock. He's an expert on China with the Daily Caller News Foundation, and he knows what those pandas are up to. We'll talk to him. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Isn't it crazy? It's totally crazy. And you know, and of course, the biggest group of suckers in the whole country were there last night at that dinner in California. All these CEOs for these major American companies, all standing up, giving a standing ovation to the Chinese dictator Xi Jinping, the communist. Yay! This is the way our country ends. All these CEOs standing up, applauding Xi Jinping, especially as he's like, and don't you worry, I know how much you people love pandas, you dummies. I'm going to send you a bunch of pandas. Everyone excited now? Yeah, I'm so excited. Pandas are coming. Look, if you want to see a fat dude rolling around with a Slim Jim, you don't have to go that far. You don't have to go all the way to China to find this. It's somewhere near you. This is crazy. All right. Back to this in a bit. We'll get more on that issue. Meanwhile, we do have insanity in the United States already. We don't need to import pandas for that. We've got lefties attacking their own party headquarters last night, right here in Washington, D.C. I'm just trying to sit at home, have a peaceful night with my family, and all of a sudden my phone starts lighting up with, there's a riot going on at the DNC now. A riot as Democrats attack it. All these people who are anti-Israel, who've decided that the target of their ire now is the Democrat National Committee. This is the way these revolutions always go, right? In the end, they eat their own. And so they're attacking their own party leadership. And that's not just a guess. This is all of, to the extent that any of these people could speak English, they were standing in front of microphones and they were saying, 80% of our party supports a ceasefire. That's what they would say. And our leaders, they would say, our leaders are not on board and we're here to tell them to get on board. And what they're talking about is polling that shows that it's true. 80% of Democrats think that Israel shouldn't defend itself, shouldn't fire back. That's their position. And so all these guys go out there and they're screaming at the DNC last night, and they begin blockading the doors. Now, inside of those doors are members of Congress. So to the extent that you're going to see a police response anywhere in the country, it's always going to be in defense of powerful people. Oh, members of Congress in there? We better send the cops out. Normal people, just like people like you and me, we're not getting a police response. Like, lefties are blockading your home, blockading your business. Well, unless there are members of Congress in there, we're not sending the police. But in this case, cops show up because they're blockading the doors yesterday and moving dumpsters in front of doors and using moving these bike racks around. And the cops decided to intervene. What's the phrase that they use? They decided to introduce consequences, according to the Capitol Police, to introduce consequences. And they started trying to pull people away. And all of these lefties, these Democrats, they're all locking arms together. Don't pull us away. Don't pull us away. And so they're pulling them off the doors, trying to get them out of there. And the police are reporting that multiple things happened. You had pepper spray wielded by the rioters, sprayed in the direction of the cops and into the eyes of these police officers. Now, have we ever heard about something like this happening before? Oh, yeah. Last week, we were talking about this very issue, January 6, 2021. A guy who lives in central New Jersey apparently had sprayed in the direction of police officers pepper spray. And so for years, the FBI has been hunting this man down. Eventually, they go into his neighborhood a week or so ago. They send in the SWAT teams. They raid his home. They try and take him into custody. He runs off into the woods, and they launch a central New Jersey manhunt for this one January 6th suspect who was believed to have pushed the little tiny button on a pepper spray canister, right? And they told everybody in the entire community, you need to shelter in place. They never explained why. They never said this guy was a threat to anybody's safety. They never told people why they couldn't go out for milk. None of that. It was shelter in place. And you get a military-style presence in central New Jersey searching for one man from January 6, 2021, who, I should note, is a veteran, who had an honorable discharge from the military last year, who was a military police officer as well. He's a guy who actually has some familiarity with law enforcement, assuredly an affinity for law enforcement. But they treated him like he was a terrorist. Well, like the way we used to treat terrorists if you were going to hunt them down. Nowadays, we just see them on the border. We're like, you could go into our country if you'd like. Did you hear yesterday? We were talking about this yesterday. We were getting the rundown from members of Congress. They're catching some of these guys. They're on the terror watch list, and not all of them get deported. It's like, some of them can stay. You can stay. You're terrorist-ish, so you're fine. What is happening to our country? How often are you thinking about this now? And how did everybody go so crazy? The answers to this are all the left, the left, the left, the left. They took over all these institutions, institutions of what we used to call higher learning. They've trained all these people to be hair on fire radicals, and now they're actually doing it. Now they're stampeding, storming their own party's headquarters. And these are all the same people. This is not like a nuanced debate. This is not something like, one of the things that would happen in a normal functioning society where you'd have a debate like this. You'd say, Israel was just attacked by terrorists. Do you condemn the terrorists? Oh, yeah, baby, I condemn the terrorists, right? That'd be easy. And now what's going on in Gaza? How do we prevent the loss of innocent life and we kill the terrorists? That's a great conversation. Let's kill terrorists, prevent the loss of innocent life. That's great. But that's not what the left is doing today. You realize that? That's not what the substance of their conversation is. There's no nuance to this whatsoever. It's why they're tearing down posters of hostages. They don't even want people to think about the atrocities of October 7th. You're not allowed to even contemplate it because you might derive some moral clarity from it. No need for that. No need for that. Or they'll go as far as justifying all of this, right? In fact, I go as far as, it seems to be the common refrain. They justify a terrorist attack on civilians in Israel. 1,400 people killed. That's insanity. And how did this happen? Well, if you've noticed, we've got young people who are favorably quoting Osama Bin Laden this week all across TikTok. You seeing these videos? They think terrorism's great. And in fact, they think that Hamas is justified because of the wisdom, in their view, of Osama Bin Laden. Well, look, those Israelis deserve it because they do. That's the way they view this. And they also view it that America deserved 9/11. America's the bad guy. It deserved 9/11. It deserved to lose thousands of our American citizens, civilians, who were just trying to go about their business in places like New York, Washington, D.C., and on these planes, and in a field in Pennsylvania. It's madness. I'm telling you. And so this is the same crew that's like attacking the Democrat National Committee last night. Listen to this. These are TikTokers. TikTokers, again, controlled by China. TikTok is a weapon of China. And we are so stupid. So we're going to take pandas, not to tie everything together, but it really does all tie together. We're going to take the stupid pandas and then allow them to continue to fill our children's heads with this crap.
This morning I read Letter to America, which is Osama Bin Laden's letter to America explaining why he attacked Americans. And I am ashamed to say that I not only have never read this letter, but I didn't even know this letter existed. It's wild, and everyone should read it. If you haven't read it yet, read it. However, be forewarned that this has left me very disillusioned, and I feel the same exact way I felt when I was deconstructing Christianity. I feel a little bit just confused, like I have entered into another timeline.
She deconstructed Christianity as well? I mean, you can tell this is all Marxism. it's godless, and it teaches, everyone's being taught loathing for this country.
What is this? And yeah, so go read it.
So I just read A Letter to America, and I will never look at life the same. I will never look at...
So what you see happening here, what's actually happening is, first of all, people feel that they have to express their every thought into a camera. Like they have to. Everyone's got to turn their phones towards their faces and tell everybody about the one thing that they just read. And now you need to know about it, and it's all about like my wisdom, et cetera, et cetera. This is the attitude, right? Everyone's become, little broadcasters. And it doesn't matter what they know or if they know anything at all. Boom, it's just out there. And then China takes that, they take all this, and then they pump it into the heads of all of these kids who are sitting on their damn phones consuming this Chinese algorithm, which is telling them that Hamas is great, terrorism's fine, it's totally justified, kill civilians, America deserved a terrorist attack, Osama Bin Laden was right. Do you think this, you obviously know the answer to this, do the Chinese pump the same sort of, I don't even know if there's a true analogy here that we could use. But in other words, the criticisms of China, do you think that's all over their TikTok in China, their version of TikTok? No. How many kids in China even know what Tiananmen Square is? Is there any contemplation on that whatsoever? Is that showing up in the apps? No. China banishes all of this. But then it allows lies and propaganda and what people now call disinformation to fill the phones of all of the kids here in the United States.
This country the same. I will never... Please read it. And if you have read it, let me know if you are also going through an existential crisis in this very moment. Because in the last 20 minutes, my entire viewpoint on the entire...
All these people need to go to church. All of them. You need to go to church, get in the pew, sit there and think about what you did.
Life I have believed and I have lived has changed. Please read that entire letter.
I need everyone to stop what they're doing right now and go read. It's literally 2 pages. Go read A Letter to America. And please come back here and just let me know what you think, because I feel like I'm going through like an existential crisis right now, and a lot of people are.
This is the same group of people who don't want you to see a Donald Trump speech. This is literally the same category of person who thinks that it's dangerous to watch Trump speak unfiltered. You can't see a Trump speech. It's radicalizing. It's dangerous for America. But I need everyone to stop what they're doing right now and go read Osama Bin Laden's criticism of the United States of America. Can they hear themselves?
So I just need someone else to be feeling this too.
I need you to stop what you're doing and go read...
Notice they all parrot the same stuff, too. I need you to stop what you're doing and now go read Osama Bin Laden.
Letter to America.
The talking points have gone
It is
out.
literally the craziest thing I've read in a while. And while I can't say that I'm that surprised, I am pretty shocked. So go read it and tell me what you think, because I really also need to talk to other people about this. And actually, before you even read the letter, I did want to mention, in reading the letter, I could only think of this tweet that I saw the other day. Under settler colonialism, any kind of resistance is branded as terrorist because the only acceptable violence is violence by the occupier.
Uh-huh. So what the inverse of that logic, to the extent that you can call it that, is all violence is justified if I agree with the cause. That's what he's saying. Isn't that wild? So that's what's happening in our country right now. So we get this attack last night on the Democrat headquarters by Democrats. A week from now, is this going to be news? Is anyone going to be talking about this? Are there going to be manhunts for anybody involved in the attack on the DNC? No, there won't. And look, the people who attacked the DNC last night, yeah, they assaulted police officers. Cops were injured. You had at least one guy punch a female cop, punch her in the face yesterday during this attack. This is the party of punching women. That was happening yesterday. And at the moment, it looks like 80%, if that's the real number, 80% of Democrats are all on board. Yeah, well, it's worth punching a woman if it means being anti-Israel. She was on the wrong side of this issue, so she deserved to be punched. That's the attitude that the left has taken. It's a very dangerous attitude. And I'm not overstating this. This ideology, this Marxist ideology, will be the downfall of our country unless we can get a hold of it. and contain it and break people out of this spell. The one where they think that Osama bin Laden is worth consuming entirely. And Donald Trump, he has to be censored and imprisoned. All right, let's go to the phones. Let's bring in Chris from Fredericksburg, line 2. Chris, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Colonnade Show.
Hey, Vince, how you doing today?
Yeah.
I appreciate your show, and I appreciate you bringing up this topic, particularly this letter to America.
Yes.
That all these idiots are talking about. I mean, if they're basically wanting to believe this, then I'm assuming that we should believe that Mein Kampf is the truth and that everybody should read that, and that maybe the letters from the Columbine shooters that expressed their displeasure should be taken as gospel, and that justifies their shooting up a school. And this kind of stuff is idiotic, has no place in our society, and needs, like you say, to be eradicated as soon as possible.
Well, it's crazy. And all of this, so now the left believes that they should start reading manifestos and draw inspiration from them. The reality is that most of these manifestos are actually written by lefties. How many of these shootings have been eco-terrorists, and then when you pop open their manifesto, you find out, oh, they hate people, they think there are too many, it's hurting the environment. These are all lefty ideas, and now you have a young generation, Chris, who is turning to manifestos to find inspiration. That's a dangerous combination.
Well, exactly. Luckily, at least in my household, I've taught my kids better than that, and it starts in the household by talking to your kids and making sure they understand what's out there, and that they have a proper foundation to understand that this stuff is just absolutely horse crap.
Yeah, I totally agree, Chris. Good for you, and good for America. Parents who actually raise their children, don't let the internet do it for them. Especially don't let the Chinese Communist Party do it for them. I don't know. Why do people need to be told this? This is crazy. Coming up, you are being fed lies. The American news media has been spreading its share of it this week. When it comes to the crisis, the existential threat of climate change, lots of kids reading about that, seeing videos about that on TikTok. They have existential dread. They don't even want to have children of their own. They're afraid that the whole planet's about to collapse. We'll explore some of the latest crisis claims with Steve Milloy moments away. Good afternoon to you. 3:35 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, Congressman Ben Cline will be with us at 4 o'clock. We'll react to Joe Biden's meeting with Communist Xi Jinping, and has got some information for us about how to protect America from spies. And then Philip Lenjicki will be with us today at 5 o'clock. He's an expert on China, reacting to Xi Jinping's trip to America and what Joe Biden gave away in the process. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Yeah, part of the quote agreement between the United States and China this week announced is that we're going to further collaborate with them on China, on climate. The Biden administration is doubling down on climate cooperation. Meanwhile, Xi's economy has decided to go all coal. They're just pumping out coal-fired plants like crazy. For more on what's actually going on in the world, the man who studies it, Steve Milloy, joins us now. He's a senior E&E Legal Fellow and a former Trump-Pence EPA transition team member. Steve, good to have you with us, sir.
Hey, Vince, thanks for having me back.
I always cringe when I hear that China and the United States are going to discuss the, quote, climate crisis, because that means we're getting hurt and they're making out like bandits. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yeah, this agreement is nothing more than a sop from communist China to help Biden and Kerry politically and to keep the, America hurting climate hoax going. The agreement they claim to have reached doesn't bind China to cut emissions or really do anything else. All they really want to do is keep the climate hoax alive. And why do they want to do that? Well, U.S. climate spending and regulations hurt the U.S. economy, help China. Mandates, of course, deepen U.S. dependence on China. And both of those help, compromise U.S. national security, which, of course, advances China's goal of being a lone global superpower by 2049.
Even if they pinky promised that they would, cut some sort of emissions or something, Like, the idea is so crazy. They won't even share with us. They were deleting data about COVID. They're not going to share information about their energy output.
Well, absolutely. And since when do we trust communists? I mean, The last people that to trust the communists were the British when they gave up Hong Kong. And Hong Kong was supposed to be, basically an independent place for 50 years. Didn't even make it 20.
Good point. How'd that go? Not well at all. So here we are making big agreements again with China and hoping that they hold their end of the bargain. And I'm not sure why. On this whole like climate alarmism front, I'm seeing a bunch of things this week. One is there's a big Lancet study out this week that claims that heat-related deaths have risen precipitously. People are dying more due to heat now, especially among the elderly age group. It's suggesting that heat stroke is becoming more common. Heat deaths are becoming more common. But one of the things that I've noticed about all the coverage of this, Steve, is I don't see the word cold anywhere. I don't see any reference to cold deaths in the New York Times, in Axios, or even in the Lancet study itself. Why didn't they tell me about cold deaths?
Because the reality is that cold weather is far more deadly and dangerous than warm weather. It's just a universal constant no matter where you live, even if it's like sunny Florida, Southern California. Deaths and illness increase in the wintertime and they decrease in the summer. This notion that there's more heat waves and more heat waves killing more people is ridiculous. The best temperature data we have in the world are from the United States, and we can clearly see that the 1930s were very hot, a lot of heat waves. And since then, heat wave intensity and frequency has declined dramatically. So today is nothing like it was in the 1930s. And if you die from heat today, you're either doing something stupid, you're not drinking enough water, you're exerting too much in hot weather, or you don't have access to air conditioning. And of course, the Greens are coming after our air conditioning. They don't want us to use air conditioning, but of course, air conditioning is the only defense, or it's the best defense against heat.
Yeah, there was a report in the Wall Street Journal in 2021. Cold temperatures kill 8 times as many people as hot temperatures. 8 times as many people. In other words, warmer temperatures save lives. And I'm not saying the Lancet didn't say that this week. They said that there's a lot more death occurring. That's actually a lie. There's a lot more life occurring.
Oh, absolutely. And, I've been through this before with the Lancet. I mean, they lie about their data. They misrepresent their data. The reality is that cold weather is far more dangerous to people. Wintertime is far more dangerous than summer. In the winter, if you're freezing to death, there's little you can do. In the summer, in the worst heat, there's something you can do to save yourself. This is just more climate propaganda. As we get closer to the UN conference that's going to be in Dubai this year, COP28, we're just going to hear more and more of this climate propaganda. This week the Biden administration came out with their national climate assessment. Basically bemoaning how the world is coming to an end. It's not true.
Dubai. So we're having the climate conference in Dubai. Does Dubai run off of solar panels and windmills? How does Dubai operate?
Well, interestingly enough, the president of the conference is also the CEO of the UAE National Oil Company. So you just swallow.
I can't. I want to curse, but I can't curse on the radio. It's bullcrap. This whole thing is bullcrap, Steve. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, when are they going to stop falling for it? What was it? Michael Moore made a movie a couple years ago about this, where he starts freaking out that the whole green energy movement is a scam. It's hilarious, and the left hated it because he said that. They were like, "Don't." So nobody watched the movie. The right hates this guy, Michael Moore, because he's fat clown, and then the left hates the guy because he was saying something true, that the green movement is a big old scam. And here you have, so UAE's hosting it, and the guy who's running the whole thing runs the largest oil company.
Yeah, and I don't know how we're going to get out of this. I mean, the Inflation Reduction Act that Biden had passed last year, the price tag was only like $370 billion for green stuff. But of course, Goldman Sachs did the real analysis, and the real cost is $1.2 trillion. And, we have all these rent-seeking industries, wind, solar, EVs. Those guys want that money, plus all the researchers out there. Those guys want that money. So how is this stuff going to go away? I mean, they are incentivized to lie all the time, and they do. All you got to do is just turn on the news and listen to the lies about climate.
Yeah. And then they have their stupid publications tell us that they're saving lives when, in fact, their technologies kill more people. More people die because of this.
Yeah, so they've got all these people buying e-bikes, and of course there's just this rash of, e-bike explosions. People leave the things plugged in and they explode at night and kill people. These EVs sort of spontaneously combust. One day EVs are going to spontaneously combust in an office building garage or an apartment building garage, and it's going to be a real problem.
But if you're telling people that they can't operate their heating in their home during the coldest months of winter, you can't operate during peak times, you're going to kill people like that.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, the Biden administration wants everyone to get rid of their, gas furnaces in favor of heat pumps. Well, of course, if you live in really cold places, heat pumps basically quit working at about 40 degrees. And it can get awful cold in like Minnesota and Michigan and Maine, places like that. They can't go on heat pumps. Heat pumps don't work.
I was talking to a guy from Alaska this week. Alaska runs on gas. That's their whole thing, because they're in a very cold climate and they need gas to keep the heat coming, or else they don't have it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And of course, the cold weather, once again, is, the number one seasonal killer, no matter where you live.
I've got more climate data deception going on this week. Again, my colleagues over at the Daily Caller, this time from the Daily Caller News Foundation, they say a key stat used in the Biden administration's landmark climate report is misleading. It was the 5th National Climate Assessment, and it shows makes a bunch of different dramatic claims. But in one of the graphics, it would lead viewers of the graphic to believe that there have been more than $900 billion $900 billion loss events. That is 900 individual events where $1 billion was lost in damages due to climate. However, data published by the NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, shows the actual number for that time period is actually just 373. And the reason for the discrepancy between NOAA's data and the NCA 5 graphic is that billion-dollar damage events typically impact more than just one state. So they were padding the numbers. They would count each state individually here. Additionally, all these claims about climate damage causing billions of dollars of damage, it's never been like this before. Isn't it the case, Steve, that we just have higher density and we have more expensive buildings in the path of some of these storms now?
Yeah, so one of the tropes of climate idiocy is that extreme weather is causing more damages. Addressing the extreme weather, first off, there's no sort of extreme weather that correlates with growth in emissions or any of the slight warming we may have experienced. When you get to these disasters themselves, well, they're more expensive. In a state like Florida, Florida's population has grown 30% just since 2005. That's not even 20 years. And they've grown 30%. Of course, with that 30% increase, not only are there a lot more people with a lot more stuff, there's a lot more development. So anytime a storm comes through, of course, there's going to be higher damages. And this is the dirty secret of all these damage calculations. Once you adjust them for population growth and for GDP, they go with, there's no trend.
Yes.
There's no trend in damage.
I noticed that they don't talk about loss of life. Why is that?
That's another great point. Over the last 100 years, the mortality from natural disasters has decreased by about 99%. We just have the wherewithal, we have the alert systems, we have the means of avoiding extreme weather, we just have all sorts of technology and knowledge that we didn't have 100 years ago that we could save ourselves with. And we employ this every day, but alarmism wants to scare you that storms are just going to destroy our world.
Right.
It's not true.
And the quality of construction's gone up a lot as well in order to meet. Like if you live in a storm region, you should probably build your house to get ready for it, like just in case. And nowadays, with the alert system we have, people evacuate. If there's going to be a big storm that hits, we evacuate. So we have a lot less loss of life. Yeah, it's a huge thing. But it's amazing though, because like if I watch NBC, they'll never tell me this. They won't tell us. They won't tell me a word about this, Steve. Anything that you just said. Human lives are being saved. That's a great story. I guess that's why they don't tell me about it.
Yeah, look, I say this as often as I can. Virtually everything climate is a lie. It's true that carbon dioxide has greenhouse gas properties, but after that, it's all just made up. Okay. And it's all made up for a political or a financial purpose. And, people that are interested in this, can follow me on X at Junk Science. I do this every day.
Please follow him. Steve's got a lot of good stuff to say. Steve Milloy, again, his X account, Junk Science. And Steve, really appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
All right, Vince. Thank you.
Good to talk to you. Let me take some phone calls here. We've got a lot of stuff going on in the world. Peter's calling in from McLean right now, reacting to all of this craziness. The left attacking its own party headquarters yesterday. All the kids reading Osama Bin Laden's manifesto on TikTok. Peter, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call. I think it illustrates three problems in the country right now. Number one, parents are not teaching their children that this is God's greatest country in the world. If in the history of mankind, if you were born in the latter half of the 20th century, first part of the 21st century, you've won the lottery, okay?
Yeah, yes.
And it hasn't ever been better, okay? Is it perfect? No, but it never will be. And people just don't understand. They have no concept. They don't own a passport. They've never seen real poverty. They think they've got it hard, and it's just narcissism. The second problem that we have is the education. Look, everybody read Mao's Little Red Book or Mein Kampf the first time their junior year of high school or freshman year of college and thought, hey, that's pretty cool. But you had a teacher that would tell you, hey, this guy killed 40 million people. Okay? It's like, so this sounds really cool. So the learning lesson here is, yes, this is a book of philosophy, but here's where it ended. And we don't have that in the schools. We have radical activists. If you go to any college, the lowest SAT scores are in the education department. You see what we've been experiencing since COVID. These are people who are, 48 hours from a gay orgy that wash the pink out of their hair before they go to class, before they go teach class. I mean, it's crazy. And the final problem with it is it highlights the essential narcissism of social media. You mentioned that when you talk about people, they got to turn it to their face and they have these stentorian tones about this is an existential crisis.
Right.
No, it's not. You're just stupid. but nobody in this narcissistic world can say, hey, you know what, Skippy? We've all read Mein Kampf, okay? We've all read Mao's Little Red Book, and this guy killed 2,800 innocent people on 9/11 because he represents a murderous philosophy, no matter how nice it might sound to you.
Yeah.
You're just not that bright.
Peter, thank you. What an amazing call. Really appreciate that. A good rundown of all the things happening right now in this country. These little narcissists. You're just stupid, says Peter. That's true. That is true. As always, breaking news piling into the pipeline. We'll share some coming up with you. Right now, we'll go to Jeff in Fredericksburg on line 4. Jeff, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Colonnese Show.
Yeah, I'd like to keep up with the junk science and get a little bit into junk history.
Yes.
In the beginning, the planet was cold, and we had nothing. Then it got warm, and the dinosaurs showed up. Then it got cold, then dinosaurs went away, and then it got warm, and they came back. Let's skip ahead a couple millennials and go into the human epoch of time.
Yes.
When the beginning of time, if you go with the Bible, had us starting in what is now known as Iraq, Babylon area, okay?
The cradle of civilization.
It was pleasant. Yes, it was pleasant. It was comfortably warm. It was temperate. They had rain. Everything was lovely. It got hotter. People spread out. It got colder. We had disasters, famine, locusts, other plagues, stuff like that. It got warm. People spread out. The Greeks and Romans had their turn.
Jeff, I'm sensing a trend here.
Yeah. It got cold. We had the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, more famine, more pestilence, more ugly shit going on than we needed to have. It got warm. We had exploration. It got cold. We had a bunch of people that got kind of cranky. Some of them were named George and Thomas and Jeff and stuff like that. And they all lived over here on this little part of the world we call North America.
Yeah.
And they said, you know what, England, you can go kiss our butt. So we had another war. At the same time, France was having a war, and so was the Austro-Persian area having wars. So the point is, every time the global climate warms, life on Earth flourishes. Every time it gets cold, there's terrible repercussions.
That's a pretty good summary. I like that. It's a good summary. And if you don't want to stretch out through all of human history to establish it, all of our planet's history, you could just look at the seasons. Hey, when do the trees grow? When it gets warm, as Jeff might say. Coming up, we've got Congressman Ben Cline joining us. He'll talk about Joe Biden's big meeting with Xi Jinping. You see, Biden is promising that he's going to handle all of the Chinese diplomacy personally going forward. God, no. Please, no. Don't do that, whatever you do. We'll talk to Congressman Cline about that in a moment.